Hi everyone, my name is Haley Osborne, and today I'm going to be talking about my project-based lesson. I focused on the workplace, and I'm going to go over my webinar that I did. I am the assistant manager at the Sherwin-Williams in Mocksville, and my topic is asking open-ended questions. This is very important because our goal is to provide the customer with the correct product for their project and to provide them with the best service possible. So in order for us to do that, we need as much information as possible in a short amount of time. And it needs to be quality information. And in order for us to get that, we have to make sure that we're not asking close-ended questions, because if we ask a close-ended question, we're just going to get a yes or no answer. And that's not acceptable, because then we're going to have to keep asking the customer more questions. And because that eventually just gets tiring, and you might lose that line of communication. It's important as a business that we seem credible and trustworthy, because our customers think that we're the experts. So if we can get all of the information we need, we can make an informed decision. And asking an open-ended question is the best way to do that. So the following objectives that I compiled for this lesson, the first one is you'll be able to identify skills needed to be able to carry out proper open-ended questioning strategies. You'll be able to apply knowledge of questioning practices by interviewing customers, and you will be able to use open-ended questioning strategies to provide customers with the best service, to promote credibility for Sherwin-Williams, and for your own personal business reputation. So in that last objective, I'm giving my employees motivation, because I'm telling them that they personally will be more successful after building and enhancing their skill set on open-ended questioning strategies. So I start the video, I start the presentation off with, this is kind of like my anticipatory set. Harvard Business Review released a video, and it's titled "The Value of Asking Open-Ended Questions." And it's a really short video, it's 2 minutes long, so it's not like exhausting to watch. And before I go over that video, I asked them the following questions. So basically, an overview of the video: Audrey works for a consulting firm, and she's a business consultant. And she's working with her colleague and coworker in a negotiation with a prospecting employer for their company. And she's really confused. She doesn't understand why she's even there at the meeting, because what they're talking about, like, they're pretty much just like not including her in the conversation. And she doesn't understand why, and she knows that this isn't her area of expertise. So she's just kind of wondering why she's even there. And it's just a really great video, and she reflects on, what's going on. And I asked my students 3 questions. What was Audrey's open-ended question? How did Audrey generate her question? And how was Audrey's questioning process effective? So I asked them these questions before I even start the video, to kind of give them an outline of what's the important information that I should be taking away from this video. And I asked them the questions, and then I answer the questions for them, just to kind of check for understanding. And I highlight keywords here: reflected, next opportunity, clarification, to kind of give my employees the idea that asking an open-ended question, sometimes it requires a method. And this is a great example, because Audrey, in the video, she used a method. She didn't act on her emotions. She was very tactful, and she asked questions at the right time. And I also emphasize that too, asking the question at the right time and tactfully. Just because you ask an open-ended question doesn't mean it's a good question. So I also emphasize that as well. And I think that kind of branched out on task 2, when they asked us about conceptual understanding. kind of reiterating that, you know, there are many different facets to open-ended questions. There's a process here. I think that really kind of generated a conceptual understanding within my employees. And if you notice here, the entire presentation, I asked open-ended questions. I never asked a closed-ended question. So I was leading by example here to kind of branch on that conceptual understanding of the questioning process. So on task 2, this excerpt, I answered this for question 4, deepening student learning during discussion, during instruction. Explain how you will elicit and build on student responses to promote thinking and develop conceptual understanding, technical skills, and problem-solving strategies related to your specific area of career and technical education. And I brought in Bloom's taxonomy, and I emphasized that I'm moving my students from the understanding stage and then to the evaluation stage. So they're first exhibiting memory of previously learned material, and then they're demonstrating understandings of facts and ideas by providing a description of events. And then they're making a judgment on the quality of the questioning strategy. So here I just this is more of like a checking for understanding, reiteration of why are we doing this? Why are we asking open-ended questions? What is our goal? Like what do we get from asking open-ended questions? What is our vision? What is our mission? And then I provide them with examples, because yes, I've given them kind of a conceptual understanding, but I want them to understand how to use these open-ended questioning strategies as well. And in my video, I go over a few of these. How has your experience with a paint sprayer helped your business grow is one of the questions. And I also gave them an example of a closed-ended question related to that question. So when I talked about the paint sprayer, I gave them all of the details that theoretically a customer would give them, like an expansion of their business, what products they would be buying more. And I correlated it to lead generation and sales tactics, and I also correlated it to a relationship building experience. So also here, building on the conceptual understanding of open-ended questioning and how it's going to help them in the long run. And the closed-ended question that was the example that I provided with them was, do you like your new paint sprayer? Because that is a yes or no answer, and you might risk severing that line of communication with the customer. So this was my first this was my first formal assessment that I did with my students. And I gave them all a sheet of paper, and I asked them to reflect on a time when they asked the wrong question at the wrong time, the right question at the wrong time, or the wrong question at the right time. Because we previously talked about asking questions tactfully and efficiently, and also just asking open-ended questions in general. And then I asked them to reflect, why did this happen? How would you change the outcome if you were given a second chance? And then I asked them to write their reworded question here and explain how they would have asked the question appropriately. I did have one employee, see if I can find it. One of my employees filled out this assessment. Okay, she said that a customer walked in and he just placed an old paint can on the table, and she immediately asked him, before saying anything else, she asked him if he was returning the paint, and the customer got angry and he just walked out. And she explained that she would have first asked him, "How are you doing today? How can I help you?" Because that is an example of an open-ended question. And I feel like I got really good feedback from my employees, because I told them about a time when I had first started as an MT, when I asked a lady, a DIY customer, about heavy foot traffic. Like, what does heavy foot traffic have to do with putting your hands on the wall? It confuses people, and I think that kind of goes back on task 2, where I established rapport with my employees, because I was relatable and I was humble, and I admitted that I'm human. I make mistakes too. It's okay to make mistakes, but we have to learn from those mistakes, and we have to reflect, like in this assessment, so we don't make those mistakes again. And here I did some auditory skits, which I thought were helpful because I'm providing them with 3 pictures, spray 9, someone etching their driveway, and then Ron Burgundy going, "That doesn't make any sense." So it gives them an idea, and it kind of redirects their minds to the main focus of this skit while they're listening to it. The most effective way to make sure you are meeting the needs of the customer is to lead them to the aisle that has all of the cleaning supplies. Then you can ask the customer a question such as, "Why are you needing cleaning supplies?" This may sound like an oddly worded question. I mean, you could have asked them, "What are you using the spray knife for?" as they were reaching for the spray knife. But there is something more thought-provoking about a question that starts with why rather than what. Asking the customer, "Why are you needing cleaning supplies?" gives them the opportunity to elaborate on the project and explain as many details as possible. This customer can have a serious stain problem on the wall, and he or she may not understand the best possible way to clean and prepare the area for remodel. Asking a customer a question like, "What are you using the spray knife for?" runs the risk of severing that line of communication between you and the customer. The customer goes, "A stain? Well, what kind of stain?" A wall stain." "Oh, well, we have a primer for that." I need to clean the area first before I worry about painting." So why was the last conversation less productive than the first one? The first question provokes the customer to explain in greater detail the needs of the project. When asking a question that starts with why rather than what, "Why are you needing cleaning supplies?" it encourages the listener to elaborate and offer rationale and reasoning. "Well, I'm trying to find a product that will allow me to clean up these awful stains that are all over the walls of the new house that I just bought, and I'm in the process of preparing the remodel." Wow, stains are tough to just wipe off. We have an excellent stain blocking oil-based primer that has proven its performance on some of the toughest and most pronounced stains in the commercial industry as well as the residential repaint industry. It's called Extreme Block. Really? That sounds like a product that will save me a lot of headache in the future. Can you show me where it is? Of course. And we also have a high build paint and primer of one that allows you to repaint over some pretty deep stains. And it was formulated to serve as a crossover product. This one is called Extreme Cover. I will print out some resources for you to view before you make your decision. Don't worry, I will
all of the important information, and we will make an informed decision together. Wow, I am amazed at your product knowledge. Do you know of any painters that can come remodel my house for me? I will just let you work alongside him or her, and you guys can really take a load off. So, this exact conversation has actually happened to me before. Sometimes customers just want the job done the right way, and that's why they just start to complete these projects on their own. By asking open-ended questions, we can establish credibility and open up the maximum amount of opportunities for our business and to serve our customers.
And I actually have a couple more of these skits. I don't have enough time to go over them, but just providing my employees with a scenario of,
If a customer walks in,
oh, there we go again. Just providing my employees with an example of how the situation should go and how it shouldn't go is a great way for them to put themselves in my shoes, or kind of put themselves in a situation that might not have gone well in the past, and how would they fix it. And it gives them a guideline of how to use these questioning strategies. So examples are great. And why is it important that we are asking questions at a time that is appropriate? So not only am I focusing on asking open-ended questions in general, I'm focusing on the conceptual outlook of the questioning process itself. Timing, structure, tactfulness, and efficiency. And then we go over the importance again. And as you can see, I continue to ask open-ended questions throughout the presentation. So here I have an example of failing to ask the proper question. And this kind of reiterates on when I established rapport with my students and I became relatable, because I made a skit up of an employee who asked a lady if she had a lot of heavy foot traffic. And there was confusion in the conversation, and just reiterating why it's important to ask the right question at the right time in the right way. So here's another skit that I use. So I use multiple skits throughout my presentation. And then I ask questions to kind of check for understanding. How is this a successful conversation? Emphasize credibility. This was really important for me to get across to my employees, because we have the internet to our disposal. And my big thing is, what I live by is, when I don't have an answer for something, I find it. I find someone, I find a resource, I call someone in another store, I read a data page, I Google information, I find the answer. I don't say I don't know, and I don't give them the wrong answer. And this is touching on task 3 for my role play assignment. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up so I can go over my grading criteria here. Previous assignment, sorry. No. Assessment. Okay, I found it. Okay, so at the end of the presentation, I put together a little role play assignment. It's not the traditional project-based lesson that many of you have done, because what was asked, I mean, it was very hard for me to put this in the perspective of my work role. And it would have been impossible for me to get my employees to do a project. So to make this as realistic as possible and for me to get as much out of this edTPA lite experience as possible, I chose to do this role play assignment with my employees. And I will explain to you why after I go over the assessment. So basically, a customer walks in, his name is Jake. He is looking to purchase a clear coat for his floor. How do you provide him with the best product for the job, and what questions do you ask? And both employees had to play the customer and Jake. And my grading criteria was on a scale of 1 to 4. 1 was not engaging at all and not focused at all on the assignment. An example of a number 1 would have been employees have separated themselves completely from the training session. A grading scale of 2 would have meant that the employees were somewhat engaged, but they were spending the majority of the time off subject. An example of this would have been that employees were talking about their personal lives, movies, looking at their phone, and they were disengaged for the majority of the assignment. And employees were not utilizing open-ended questioning strategies. If my employees got a 3 on the assignment, they were engaged, but they needed improvement. The role play wasn't as well thought out as it could have been, or it was not taken as seriously as it could have been. The questions that they used may have been open-ended, but they may have needed improvement. So an example of a 3 would have been that employees are engaged in the assignment and are acting out the assignment, but it is apparent that the employees could have been putting more effort into the assignment. Employees were maybe using open-ended questioning strategies, but they need improvement, as in timing, structure, tactfulness, and efficiency. If employees received a 4 on the assignment, they were providing an engaged, well thought out, and seriously taken role play. An example of this would have been that employees were engaged, focused, and actively participating in the assignment as if it were a real depiction of what happens in an everyday customer interaction in the store. The employees are utilizing open-ended questioning strategies in a timely and tactful manner while depicting favorable conversation. And task 3 asks you to describe how you would follow up with your assessment. And this was really important for me, and this is why I chose to do a role play assignment and why I chose this topic. So for part E of task 3, based on your analysis of student assessments presented in prompts 1B through C, describe the next steps for instruction to impact student learning and explain how these steps will complement student learning. Support your explanation with principles from research and theory. Be sure to focus on the whole class and a minimum of 3 students with learning differences. So no one had a learning difference. I have 2 employees that report to me. So this was a little hard for me to answer. My next steps for instruction will include planning, practice, immediate feedback, and reflection. It will be important for my employees to realize when it is necessary to conduct the proper questioning techniques discussed and to practice using open-ended questioning strategies every day. In the planning phase of my instruction, I will provide my employees with a template that allows them to come up with their own open-ended questions before they begin helping customers. So at the start of each day, I want my employees to, before they go out on the floor, to take a sheet and reflect on how they are going to ask customers these questions. This is important because it will generate a mindset in my employees that is necessary to facilitate proper communication with the customer. During the immediate feedback stage, I will make sure that I'm observing my employees' behavior and communication as much as possible. I will provide the employee with immediate verbal feedback. I will remain focused on the positive aspects of the employee's performance. And I really want to reiterate this. I would never say anything negative about an employee's performance in front of another employee or while that employee was working his or her shift. If negative performance becomes an issue, I will work with the employee to resolve it. Positive feedback is the only feedback that will be given unless it is completely necessary. This is because I do not want to establish a poor rapport with my staff, and I do not want to discourage anyone or make them feel like it is inhuman to make a mistake. The reflection phase will include a weekly self-assessment with a provided guided handout that allows my employees to establish for themselves. I want to reiterate this too. All the positive questioning strategies and negative ones for the week. So it is very important that I give my employees the chance to assess themselves before I micromanage them and assess them for themselves. I will review this feedback, and if I believe it is biased and the employee needs to know, I will handle it in private with that employee. It is important for the employee to provide personal feedback to his or herself because it allows the employee to grow and perfect a skill set with the freedom to work independently and free from scrutiny or micromanagement. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry it was a little wordy. I'm very tired, but thank you for listening. And this has been a great experience for me. It has allowed me to understand that there are a lot of moving parts to instruction and teaching. You have to serve your students. You're not just standing up there and lecturing. And it's very important to make sure that you serve the needs of all of your students because they're all very diverse and they all have diverse learning styles and aptitudes and abilities, and you have to meet everyone's needs to ensure the success of everyone in your class. And I think that this edTPA Lite experience has really opened my eyes to that.